I think he's a bigger Cinderella story than Max Duggan. And so, to me, he is still healthy. He is there. He's kind of been undervalued the whole time. And I would have had, Stetson Bennett on my Heisman Trophy ballot, and I'm glad he made it. I don't think he'll win it. They're probably going to give it to Caleb Williams, which I think is stupid. Of the four guys that were finalists, and again, it's an all quarterback award this year. You've got Caleb Williams, you've got C.J. Stroud, you've got Max Duggan. That those are the guys, and Stetson Bennett. I would vote for Stetson. His team's undefeated. He's been undervalued his whole career. He's a national champion. These other dudes, their teams aren't undefeated. And there's been games this year where they've all struggled. Even Stetson's had some where he struggled, but his team won games. And so if you're going to give me those four, then I'm going to go with Stetson Bennett, no question about it. But I think injuries and injuries derail Bryce Young, because if Bryce isn't hurt, then he plays against Texas A&M. They blow Texas A&M out. He has probably close to 3,500 yards passing, and really closer to 4,000, because he was on his way to a 400-yard performance against that pathetic Arkansas defense. And so I just think, even if he had lost two games, and probably they would have beaten LSU, because he wasn't completely healthy against LSU, even though he rallied his team, put him in the lead 5 times, and Pete Wild Turkey Golding couldn't close the deal, with defensively at 5 times, and the Alabama didn't win that game. But I probably Bryce those for 400 against LSU. And then he might have hit 4,000 yards and repeated his Heisman Trophy winner, even as an 11-1 record, and getting to the SEC championship game. But again, I just think injuries derail Bryce. They derailed Hendon Hooker and Blake Corum, and this is what you have left, this foursome. And Stetson Bennett would get my vote. But again, this is the Recruiting Blitz with D Squared on Blitz Sports Radio. And before I go any further, please continue to support our streaming channel. Please download our app. Download it, at the Google Store, the Apple Store, and please continue to support us. This football season is when we basically started. We're a few months in on our streaming channel, and of course our sister station is ESPN 97.7 The Zone. So many of you, and we certainly so appreciate it, have downloaded that app. But if you have not, please download at the Google Store, the Apple Store, the ESPN 97.7 The Zone app. And then download us here at the Blitz Sports Radio. And don't forget, later today, should be some more quality banter going on. But it's going to be the bandy man, Bailey Lowry, who's also our resourceful producer for this show. He is going to be on the afternoon Blitz with Captain Cool, John Abraham. So please continue to support us there and download our app. And don't forget, coming up on December the 14th, bring a toy. Come out and see us at Flow Trampoline Park for our ESPN 97.7 The Zone listeners and the Blitz Sports Radio. Our Christmas party that we're dedicating to all you guys that support us. Please bring a toy. Come out there. Stay with us. We're going to have catered food. From some of our great sponsors, no doubt about it. We're going to have a lot of fellowship out there. We've done these Christmas parties before with our listeners in the past, and we've had a lot of fun interacting with everyone. Certainly, we look forward to that. We look forward to seeing everybody, no question about it. We are going to continue to grow both exponentially with 97.7 The Zone and the Blitz Sports Radio. We are super excited about that. And, Flow Trampoline Park, they, of course, have one of the fastest growing businesses in our community. We certainly appreciate their support and putting on this event with us, no doubt about it. And Talent Heating and Air are a huge part of this as well as one of our sponsors, no doubt about it. We so look forward to this event coming up and joining the fun. And Toys for Tots, we're going to be donating all these new toys, 2 Toys for Tots, for some of these young people that need to have such a positive experience on Christmas, to make their Christmas special. And we want to thank Bubby's Diner. They will be the caterer for us. Please check out Bubby's Diner over there off Lily Flag, the former, Gibson's Barbecue building. It's an outstanding place. Great food there at Bubby's Diner, all homemade. A great menu, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Certainly outstanding desserts over there, homemade milkshakes. So please check out Bubby's Diner, and they are going to have some food for you guys out there on December the 14th. So we look forward to that, no question about it. And I'll be out there. Hopefully, the one and only Grady the Greek will be out there. Love to have Grady out there to see everyone. When you heard his picks during football season, he does an outstanding job. Of course, the son of Hunter Royer, the UAH baseball coach. Hunter Royer and UAH, such a big part of ESPN 97.7 The Zone. And we're going to have some UAH basketball on 97.7 The Zone this week. So we're looking forward to that, as I think they're playing on Friday and Sunday this week. A weekend road swing for UAH, and we'll talk to John Shulman this week about that. So super excited about UAH basketball. They had a good week last week as they, went on the road and beat, West Alabama and bounced back after that loss to Montevallo on their road swing. And then they came back home and they got two really good road wins over, of course, Lee, the Lee Flames, and then the Shorter Hawks. So UAH getting it rolling, got C.J. Williamson back, and so we're super excited about that. And we're super excited about recruiting. We're going to because it's getting crazy. As you all guys know, the transfer portal opened for business yesterday. I mean, heck, there's already been about 1,000 guys. I've lost track. I mean, all these guys going into the transfer portal. I know there's been a lot of consternation. Alabama's had double-digit guys go into the portal. I think 5 wide receivers, 5 offensive linemen. Though I will say the only 2 mild surprises, and they're not huge surprises. I think Javian Cohen, for me, was the biggest surprise. But I think he had lost his job to Tyler Booker and wasn't confident that he was going to be 100% a starter next year. May have wanted to look at tackle, which is not going to happen at Alabama. He got to look at tackle, in the last couple of springs. That didn't work out. And then JoJo Earl. But JoJo Earl, to me, had some performance anxiety, had some issues with drops, had some issues fumbling punts. I don't know that he was ever comfortable at Alabama. He was never the dynamic playmaker he was thought to be. He did get hurt this year, which is not hit. After having a strong fall camp, that was unfortunate with his foot. They tried to work him back in. I think he's probably going to go back to the state of Texas. Could be a Longhorn, could be a Horned Frog. We'll see where he ends up. But I think he's going to go back home and play his college football. I think Alabama's fine, though. Their depth has been hurt along the offensive line. They've only got 10 offensive linemen left right now that would be active for this matchup in the Sugar Bowl and in the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans against the Big 12 champion Kansas State Wildcats. So we will see. And then going forward, Alabama could add a piece or two in the transfer portal on the O-line. But the questions are, too, are guys going to come back? Like Emil Ekiyor thought he might. He had a COVID year, I think, decided not to use it, is going to the Senior Bowl, going to move on to the NFL, hopefully have a good career. We'll see with Tyler Steen of Vanderbilt because he played 4 years at Vandy, redshirted a year, and then played 3 years. The COVID year is supposed to be not count, though. He played 1 year at Alabama, so he could come back to the University of Alabama. He has not taken a Senior Bowl invite, has not announced that he's not returning. So potentially Tyler Steen could come back for another year of left tackle at Alabama, I believe. So we'll find out about that. Is he going to move on? Elijah Pritchett's a young player to watch from Columbus, Georgia. He came in and tore a pec early before fall camp and had to get healthy, and he played some late in the year as a backup. He would probably be your backup left tackle if Alabama didn't flip J.C. Latham. So we'll see about that, where Alabama goes along the offensive line. And then Darian Dalcourt, I believe, is going to move on. He's a senior, going to move on into the and get and try to his wares and get a professional opportunity. So he's not going to be back for the University of Alabama, and that shouldn't shock anybody. That he's going to move on. But again, so far, Alabama has lost 5 offensive linemen. Redshirt junior Tanner Bowles, who played guard and center, he is going to move on from the state of Kentucky. I believe he's got a degree no doubt. Tommy Brockermeyer, he was supposed to be a 5-star. Some even called him a 6-star. He just never could gain any traction at Alabama. Had a hard time getting healthy. When he was healthy enough to play, he didn't look like an SEC offensive lineman. He's going to move on. We already talked about Javian Cohen, who spent most of the last 2 years at guard, and we talked to Jeffrey Lee of Auburn Live yesterday. It looks like Auburn is interested in him. He committed to South Carolina, then to Auburn during his recruiting process 3 years ago, then flipped to Alabama. Auburn needs some experience along that O-line, needs some help, guys that could play guard and tackle. I still think Javian's a guard, but they could end up showing interest in Javian. He could potentially move across the state, no doubt, but he has moved on. Damian George, who really was more of a guard, got to look at guard. They tried to play him at right tackle. He really struggled in last year's Iron Bowl. I didn't ever see him as a factor as a starter. Good depth, but not a starter. No doubt about that. And then, of course, Amari Kite, who I think probably of the guys that have left is the best player. He did see some action late in the year against Austin Peay in the Iron Bowl. He's a really quality backup, but he wants to play. He's probably got 2 years of eligibility left due to being a grad transfer, because I believe he does have his degree. But also, due to COVID, he could play 2 years, same way with Javian Cohen. So he wants to go somewhere and play. Good luck to that young man. But that's 5 guys that have left the University of Alabama along the offensive line. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go O-line-wise. And as we said, wide receiver core has definitely taken a hit. As we've seen already. JoJo Earl, we talked about him. He moves on. Good player, but never was consistent. Trayshawn Holden, who rumor was he was about to commit to Iowa. Now that looks like that's on hold. Trayshawn Holden, who would have been a senior next year, he is moving on, but I believe he has 2 years of eligibility due to COVID. So JoJo Earl, Trayshawn Holden have moved on. Christian Leary, who could be a target of Auburn as well. He was heavily recruited by Auburn out of high school. He has gone into the transfer portal. And so that is those are 3 guys right now that have. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyu Jones-Bell ends up going into the portal as well. He's a junior from Miami. He has never played much, and I wouldn't be surprised if he moved on into the portal also. And one of the walk-ons yesterday went into the portal as well. Jacoby Boykins from Houston, Texas. He went into the transfer portal. And so there has been several guys that have moved on from the University of Alabama and at those 2 positions, offensive line and wide receiver. That is where most of the attrition has come for the University of Alabama. And again, Alabama's got 4 guys committed in this class. When you think about that, Malik Benson, the #1 junior college prospect, Cole Adams from Owasso, Oklahoma, really good looking slot receiver, is committed. We talked already his coach, Drew Dallas, Malik Benson's coach, and we talked to Cole Adams' coach as well from Owasso. Both of those guys, quality individuals that talked about those 2 young men that are headed to the University of Alabama. No question about that. We talked to Jaron Hamilton's high school coach last week too, and Jaron Hamilton and those guys went out in a shootout to Venice. They lose 42-35, but Jaron made a lot of plays that looked like on film, watching some of those highlights. So Jaron is a very, very good player that just committed to the University of Alabama. And then, of course, we talked to this wide receivers coach over at Longview, Texas, the Lobos. But Jalen Hale is another quality wide receiver. Nick Saban just went to see. So they've got 4 really good receivers, and then they brought in a really good class this past year. One guy that I'm anxious to see, is he going to stay? And if he does, can they get him on the field, is Aaron Anderson from Edna Carr in New Orleans. He flipped from LSU. He's an explosive guy. He just got hurt, needs to get on the field. I think he's a guy that he and Isaiah Bond could continue to get better and bring some explosiveness to this wide receiver core. Of course, I love Ja'Cory Brooks. I think he's an outstanding player. Had a really good year. Nick Saban called him a dog in a good way. And Jermaine Burton seemed to be catching on as the year went on. And his last 2 games have been really good. It's going to be interesting to see if he comes back. I think he could use another year. And Kendrick Law as well. Really enjoyed what he did in the Iron Bowl. Kobe Prentice showed some potential. And now it's going to be interesting to see if a guy like Shaz Preston, what does he decide to do at the University of Alabama. Is he going to stay, or is he going to go and move on to greener pastures? We'll see with Shaz. There's a lot of playing time available still. There should be a lot of competition in the spring. Jacory's coming back. If Burton comes back, they've got some skins on the wall. But everybody else, there should be a lot of playing time available. You're going to be breaking in a new QB, which I think should be Ty Simpson from Martin, Tennessee. I think he's a 5-star talent. I think he's better long term. Certainly he'll come. Jalen Milroe will compete, but I think Ty Simpson should be the guy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this wide receiver core continues to play out for the University of Alabama. But they've had some attrition, no doubt about it. But if you've been following, the process, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that Alabama has lost some wide receivers. And Tyler Harrell is a graduate now of Alabama, but he can graduate, transfer somewhere else. He could come back to the university. He only caught one pass. Great speed. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Alabama coaching staff believes that he can come back and be a bigger part of things. And, of course, Alabama's already lost, last year at the end of the year. Ajay Hall moved on and was really booted from the team. Jaleel Billingsley transferred to Texas, though he's left Texas already. He was more of a tight end. But so Alabama's already lost some skill guys to the transfer portal, and that's just part of it. Trey Sanders, the running back, as well, because Alabama's got Jace McClellan should be coming back, Roydell Williams, Jamarian Miller. So they have some talent at running back, not to mention the 2 5-star commitments, of course, Justice Haynes from Buford, Georgia, and Richard Young. So Alabama should still be fine at the running back position. But talking about being fine, December the 30th, Orange Bowl, the battle of those going to be a lot of orange in the stadium. The Clemson Tigers, ACC champions, against the biggest surprise in the SEC, the Tennessee Volunteers. But with Joe Milton at quarterback due to the unfortunate injury to Hendon Hooker, we're going to talk some Tennessee with Matt Ray of Volunteer Country, part of Sports Illustrated, the SI.com network. Next here, stay with us on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio.
Experience Toyotathon at Bill Penny Toyota. They've got the selection with over 700 new Toyotas to choose from. And they've got the extras with Bill Penny perks and a 10-year unlimited warranty. So get on over to Bill Penny Toyota today and experience Toyotathon. Bill Penny Toyota in Huntsville and online at BillPennyToyota.com. Bill Penny's Toyota 10-year unlimited warranty is valid through the 10th year of ownership. Valid on new vehicles only. See dealer for details.
With us today, Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville.
When we evaluate a patient and they indeed have significant venous disease, most third-party payers, private insurance, Medicare, require us to treat every patient conservatively at least 90 days. Conservative treatment includes increasing ambulation, elevation of the legs, and the wearing of compression stockings. It's very common for folks to come see us in March or April wanting to have their veins fixed before they go into swimsuits starting in June. When we see someone in March or April, they're going to require at least 90 days of conservative treatment before we can even go to the insurance carrier to get permission to treat their veins. So if you think you have a venous problem, now is the time to come in and get a free screening so we can determine whether or not you need something evaluated. If you have a vein problem or you think you may have a vein problem, now's the time to contact us at bestveincarehuntsville.com.
This hour of The Blitz is brought to you by Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Online at FlemingHSV.com.
To celebrate the Olympic Games, Bridgestone is giving away prizes. You could instantly win a $10,000 Bridgestone Visa prepaid card and other great prizes every day when you buy a set of 4 eligible Bridgestone tires. Stop by Firestone Complete Auto Care today. No purchase necessary. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 and older. Limit 2 entries per person. Ends August 21st. For official rules and to enter without purchase, visit BridgestoneWin.com. Limit one $10,000 Visa prepaid card daily fulfilled by mail. Prizes awarded subject to verification. Visa prepaid card may be used anywhere Visa debit cards are accepted. Cards issued by the Bancorp Bank, member FDIC, under license from Visa USA Inc. Neither Bancorp Bank nor Visa USA Inc. are a sponsor of or affiliated with this promotion.
Napa know-how. smartphone speakers. They're about as effective as chopping firewood with a butter knife. A rusty, dull butter knife. So pick up a wireless Bluetooth speaker at Napa for just $26.99. With a rechargeable battery, 33-foot range, and rugged waterproof case, it does the one thing your phone is terrible at: play music. The Napa Bluetooth speaker, now just $26.99. That's Napa Know-How.
Napa Know-How.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Offer expires 8/31/16.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com.
The Blitz has been called.
Welcome back to the Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D-Squared, Drew DeArmond, and we're talking recruiting here from 9 to 10 a.m. We talked a lot of Alabama in our first segment just because of all the guys hitting the transfer portal and, what's going on around the world of college football. But, one of the best stories of the year in the SEC, and he was named AP SEC Coach of the Year, and I have no problem with that at all. Because, again, they were very, very close to making the college football playoff, even without reaching Atlanta. And I thought they were going to reach the college football playoff until the unfortunate evening in Columbia, South Carolina. And then the biggest, most unfortunate part of it was one of the best players in college football, Hendon Hooker, going down with a knee injury, because at the time he would have got my Heisman vote due to the win over Alabama and Bryce Young. I still say, for my money in college football this year, and I'm not discounting the 4 Heisman finalists and one of them being Stetson Bennett that I support, but I still think the best 2 quarterbacks in college football this year were Bryce Young and Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was voted, I believe, AP first team All-SEC yesterday. Bryce Young voted second team. And our next guest, Matt Ray of Volunteer Country, is going to join us now to talk some Tennessee Vols, one of my favorite guys. And please continue to support Volunteer Country. They do a great job of covering Tennessee, and Matt Ray is with us now. Matt, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas to you. How are you?
Drew, had a great holiday. Doing well. How are you doing?
Okay. Did I get that right? Was he named AP first team?
Yeah, AP first team and AP SEC Offensive Player of the Year, yes.
And he should have. And the reason I was nervous about that, and I wanted to double down on it, is because, again, the Heisman voters decided to eliminate him because he got hurt. I'm glad the AP voters did not, because he went down late in the season. He was such a great story, such a great leader for Tennessee. And like I said, I was called by a media member who had a Heisman vote on Sunday, and he asked me, what would you do, because it was coming up on the deadline. And to me, you had to have a list of healthy guys and not healthy. But if you combine them, I still would have had Hendon Hooker on my Heisman ballot. And if he had been healthy and Tennessee had completed the comeback, because at one time it was 35-31, Tennessee cut the lead down to 4 against South Carolina. If they had played a little bit better defensively, I still think that Hendon Hooker and Blake Corum, due to Bryce Young and Alabama not being able to finish, to me would have been the top 2 Heisman guys. But injury played such a big part in the Heisman Trophy race this year.
Yeah, it did, and I agree with what you said earlier in the year. It felt like, best 2 quarterbacks this season were Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young, and we had a chance to watch them, duel it out in Knoxville. And even at that time, Bryce wasn't fully healthy, and I don't think that for him, I don't think that's counted as much because he was able to play through some of it. But when you look at what he did this year and what he meant this year to Alabama, it was more than last year's Heisman season. So I think, it was a very interesting season down the stretch. You had teams, had some teams falter. You had some teams, have their struggles. Tennessee being one, not able to finish, like you said. They played a little bit better. They could have had a chance, to win that game against South Carolina. But it just never felt like overall there was really a Heisman moment this year. So it's, as a voter, and, I'm not a voter, but as a voter, I couldn't imagine, trying to sort through it, because I don't really think there was a perfect fit this year. I felt like Caleb Williams had a really good year, but again, his last opportunity, USC gets smashed, and not to, really anything that he did. Obviously, he hurts his hamstring and still has a really solid performance, but it's just it's an award that there's always going to be debate about, and I think that's probably one of the best things about college football.
It is, no doubt about it, and still a nice reward for Tennessee, and I give them credit. Joe Milton played for them last year, lost his job, and I give him credit for staying, first of all. We've seen the transfer portal and how insane it's gotten this year. Joe Milton did not move on from Tennessee like he had moved on from Michigan. He stayed. He certainly, in his moments given to play this year, has played well. He led a 56-0 win over Vanderbilt, and then and this is, I think, the key to Josh Heupel's offense. I mean, they go from, throwing the football around with Hendon Hooker and they ran the football well, much better this year at Tennessee than people understand. But they just absolutely have the three-headed monster of Wright, Sampson, and Small, and they grind out 362 yards rushing against Vanderbilt. What is the fans' thought and I mean excitement about playing this Clemson team in the Orange Bowl? Because I'll be honest, before the season started, I had Tennessee as a 7-5 team. I had them going to a bowl, being solid, but I didn't have them doing this. And I know there was some disappointment from the fan base because they came so close to going to Atlanta to win an SEC title, or even still going to the playoff, and fell a little short. But still, there should be a lot of excitement for going to the Orange Bowl. Am I right about that? How is the fan base reacting to this?
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, there's a lot of excitement for it. There's a lot of excitement to have a chance to play Clemson. I mean, obviously, Dabo walked back his comments a little bit about flipping burgers and tried to make it more about Clemson than it was about Tennessee. But obviously there's a little bit of fuel to the fire already there. So, for Tennessee fans, I think there's a matchup they've wanted for a long time, is a chance to play Clemson. There's a lot of, common recruiting battles with them. The areas are, not too far apart distance-wise. So I think Tennessee fans are very excited to get a chance to go to Miami, play in this bowl game. In the end, and another debate that, has gone on and waged on social media for the last 2 or 3 weeks is, why does Tennessee continue to be behind Alabama in the college football playoff rankings, whatever it is? At the end of the day, I think Tennessee fans kind of sat in, well, hey, yeah, maybe we feel like we should be ahead of Alabama, but also it benefits us that we're getting to go to the Orange Bowl. That's kind of the bowl that they honed in on, that they wanted, and even at one point, felt a little bit threatened that they were going to get, stripped of if Ohio State didn't make the playoff and the Rose Bowl invoked the cluster clause. So, for Tennessee fans, I think there's a ton of excitement to get the chance to go to Miami and play against a, premier program like Clemson.
Is the chances for Joe Milton to be the quarterback very real, or is this just I want to say a fill-in, or just kind of like holding the or warming the seat until one of the younger quarterbacks comes in, like a Nico Iamaleava, like the young men already on the roster? Does Joe Milton have a legit shot to be the starter next year?
He does, and I don't think I would have told you that last year after the Ole Miss game. Joe Milton came in for relief of Hendon Hooker, who was battling a leg injury at the time, and he ran out of bounds, no time left. He seemed, disinterested in some things. But from that point on, the growth of Joe Milton has been phenomenal. I mean, he lived around the facility with Hendon Hooker, during the off season. He Hendon kind of mentored him. They continued to grow together, become really close friends. And, Joe has progressed fundamentally as a quarterback. As far as his mechanics, he's progressed mentally in his ability to read defenses. He's playing more physical when he has the football, more willing runner. And if he does those things, it's pretty easy to see why Tennessee picked him the first go-around to be the starting quarterback over Hendon Hooker before he took over in that Pitt game, or Joe Milton. I mean, he can throw it 75 yards. He really spreads defenses out and allows for that three-headed monster that you mentioned to have more space to run. It's harder to put those guys in the box when you've got Joe Milton that can throw it so efficiently to all three levels of the field. He has to improve certain things. He has to improve on his touch. He has to improve on his accuracy. He can't go through those droughts where he starts 6 of 9 and then you look up and he's 9 of 21. You can't have that in SEC play. So that's where Joe Milton has to continue to grow. But I do think it's very realistic. He's going to basically have another camp here to improve upon that. Nico Iamaleava is going to be in Knoxville later this month. He's going to get to go through some ball practices, so he's going to have the opportunity to get his feet wet early too. And he is a tremendously talented guy. He possesses a lot of the same arm talent and some that Joe doesn't have. So it's going to be interesting. But this is an early audition for Joe Milton to be the quarterback for Tennessee in 2023, in my opinion.
Now, Taven Jackson is another ballyhooed guy who's played this year. He hasn't seen much action, and I'm assuming that he's going to redshirt. But is it a three-man dance? Does Taven Jackson have a legit shot? Is it Milton, Jackson, and Iamaleava? Is that going to be the race?
It is. That's going to be the race. Taven Jackson came in, is able to get to Tennessee early last year, start working in the spring, and Tennessee is really impressed with him. He's very athletic. You can see his basketball background. He's a big kid. He works. He understands spacing. So he did some things really well in the spring, and he had some opportunities this fall to continue to grow. Tennessee able to get him some work, but then he ultimately gets injured against UT Martin at the end of this season. So it'll be the key to watch how he comes back from injury. But fully expect him back by the spring to go right into this battle, and fully expect that battle to wage on going into the fall.
Yeah, and I guess I'm getting old because I'm going to ask you this because I just saw him on the roster. I knew about Taven. I knew Iamaleava was coming in. I knew Joe was the backup, but I just saw his name. Is Navy Schuler Heath's son?
He is, yes.
Oh, Lord, I'm getting old. I mean, I really am because, of course, during my time as a high schooler in college, Heath was a great player at Tennessee, played against Alabama, nearly beat Alabama in the 92 national championship season. It was a 17-10 game, I believe. Alabama won in Knoxville, but Heath was a first-round draft pick, great player from Bryson City, North Carolina. I know he's gone into politics, but wow, unbelievable that already got a son at Tennessee as a walk-on. Navy Schuler, part of that program. But now, speaking of recruiting, though, since we last spoke with you, one of the biggest pieces, literally and figuratively, Rodney Garner reels it in. David Hobbs, you talked about him on our show. You said Alabama and Tennessee were the favorites. The Vols get David Hobbs. They've got to be excited.
Yeah, they're very excited about David Hobbs, and this is a guy that, if you're going to consistently compete with the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, you have to do it up front. And for me, if you look back to Tennessee's loss against Georgia did some very great things defensively, but what they did the most was dominate Tennessee up front, and it's with guys like Jalen Carter, Zion Lowe, and just a rotation of truly talented guys. But this, for Tennessee, is that first, in my opinion, premier recruiting win on the interior defensive line. They landed James Pierce last year over Georgia, but this is a guy that comes in, possesses an immense amount of athleticism, can play a lot of different techniques for you, and can rush the passer and give you an interior presence in terms of that. Tennessee, if you've watched many Tennessee games this year, they do not have much of an interior pass rush presence. They have to do so with a blitz. Most of everything comes off of the edge, and that's tough in this league. You have to just outright beat your guy most of the time to get that kind of pass rush, or the secondary has to be really good behind you, and that's been tough for Tennessee. And in my opinion, Tennessee's secondary has its issues, but, not being able to consistently produce that pass rush is a key. So, obviously very excited about David Hobbs, the guy that Tennessee honed in on coming out of the summer and continued to prioritize and was able to get a big-time recruiting win.
Well, and then you talked with us about this next young man, and he's an underrated kid out of Alabama. And I got to give credit to Josh Heupel and his staff because they have been aggressive in the state. They got Squirrel White last year. I still think Squirrel has a chance to be a really good slot receiver for Tennessee. Earlier this year, they came into Hewitt-Trussville. They got Ricky Gibson and Sylvester Smith when both those guys were starting to blossom as players, no doubt about it. And now you talked about them needing another running back in the class, and they add a guy that helped upset the defending 6A champion Clay Chalkville Cougars in round one, Khalifa Keith from Parker High School in Birmingham. He had been committed to Kentucky. He reopened his recruitment, and right before Thanksgiving, a nice pre-holiday present for the Vols.
Yeah, Tennessee felt like, they needed to add definitely one running back in this class that is a true running back. They have Cameron Seldon coming in from Virginia.
Right.
He's a gadget guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything. In my opinion, he's kind of a Deebo Samuel. You can line him up in the backfield, get him on the outside zone. You can line him up at different receiver spots and do different things with him. But Khalifa Keith, a downhill runner with some nice ability at the second level. Tennessee honed in on him and was able to, get him to back off the Kentucky pledge. Once that happened, several more offers came in, but Jerry Mack had already established a strong bond there, and Tennessee's able to win out and really really slowed what could have been a big recruitment down here in December. It felt like other schools were going to try to push in there. South Carolina, Miami, and Mississippi State all showed serious interest in Khalifa Keith once they offered, but Tennessee had already laid the groundwork prior to the Kentucky decommitment, so things worked out well for the Vols there, especially now considering that they lost former four-star Justin Williams-Thomas to the transfer portal and Laneith Whitehead already. So the Vols down 2 scholarship backs, but expected to bring back, Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small, and Jalen Wright at this point. So, yeah, adding Khalifa Keith is a nice addition to this class.
It is, and don't forget Veason Lang. I think he's probably going to be a guard, but an outstanding offensive line prospect, too, out of Park Crossing. They won the 5A title a year ago. He is going to be a Tennessee Vol as well. So a big-time presence in the state of Alabama for Tennessee and Tennessee football. The transfer portal just opened, and Tennessee was very aggressive in the portal before year one. Josh Heupel had to be because the shape the roster's in. Going into year two, they weren't as aggressive. How do you expect Tennessee to approach this transfer portal now that it is open and underway?
Yeah, for Tennessee so far, 5 guys in the portal. They have a working number of where they want to get to. I'm not sure they'll get to the full 85, but we'll see. But overall for Tennessee, I think this time and for the first time, and not to say that it wasn't originally, but it's a lot more about quality this time around. But Tennessee made some nice additions last year, guys that contributed this fall, and Gerald Mincy, who ended up being your day one starter at left tackle and split time there the rest of the season. Wesley Walker got multiple starts. Andre Turrentine was a key special teams guy. But overall, like you said, Tennessee not as aggressive in year two in the transfer portal as they were in year one, where they added a Joe Milton, a Jawan Mitchell, a Javante Payton. This time around, I think Tennessee's going to be more aggressive. I think you could see them add, upward of 8 or 9 guys, maybe even more. We'll see where the number goes. But it feels like as far as the 2023 recruiting class, from high school prospects, it's really down to Arion Carter at this point. That's the guy that Tennessee's waiting for, battling for, and he's going to have a spot regardless of transfers. So I think that number's going to stay there. I think you'll see Tennessee add several guys to the transfer portal. Tight end's going to be a key position of need. You lose Princeton Fant. You lose Miles Campbell. You've got Jacob Warren coming back, but he's got 1 year of eligibility. And you've got Ethan Davis, who's coming in, a touted freshman that a lot of programs across the country wanted, but he didn't get to play his senior season because of an injury. So, you're going to have to work him back in and evaluate things there. So if you're Tennessee, it feels like you need at least one, but I think ultimately they'll want 2 tight ends from the transfer portal. We'll see. There's been a handful of guys enter there, that they'll evaluate. I think you'll see them at least go after one receiver. There's some talented receivers on the roster already. Brew McCoy expected to come back. Ramel Keaton coming back. Still awaiting an announcement from Jalen Hunt. So we'll see what happens with him. But if his draft grade comes back where a lot of folks are expecting it to, have to lean toward him going to the league. So, I think you could see Tennessee, pursue at least one receiver this time around. And we expect Rara Thomas to visit at this point. He has a handful of visits lined up. He'll be at Auburn this weekend. He told me Georgia later in the weekend and potentially Tennessee next week. So we'll see what comes of that. But there's several needs for the Vols, and I think you'll learn a little bit more about them in the coming weeks as you see some guys make decisions. Darnell Wright, the right tackle for the Vols, first team All SEC. He has a decision to make. That one's up in the air on if he'll come back or if he'll go to the league. So I think Tennessee will have to kind of address those needs slowly, but I think you'll see Tennessee be more aggressive this time around in the transfer portal for sure.
Yeah, and the COVID years are still throwing me because I guess what they're basically saying is anybody that played in 20, it doesn't count. So you can come back if you want. Emil Ekiyor at Alabama decided to move on, accepted a Senior Bowl invite. We'll see what happens with Tyler Steen at Alabama. I think like a Darnell Wright, he could potentially come back. I thought Darnell showed a lot of improvement this year. Perhaps he could even enhance his value even more by coming back again. It would be big for Tennessee to have an experienced player like that, no question about it. And now, I think with the success of this offense, if a Jalen Hyatt came back, it would be a tremendous boon for the Vols. Now he put up such great stats. I'm like you. I wouldn't be surprised if he moved on. But also this backfield is going to be loaded. So even with the change at quarterback, I think with this system in place, there's going to be a lot of excitement around Tennessee. There's no doubt about it, and with recruiting where it is, and really it's just done a dramatic 180 under this coaching staff. They are in the top 10 to 12 in the country. Have a very good chance to finish, in the top 10 potentially, because there's going to be guys flipping. There's going to be maybe in Tennessee's favor, maybe and then flipping from other schools, and and other recruiting classes are going to be depleted because of guys flipping. So Tennessee, regardless, is in strong position. But before we wrap it up with you, I wanted to go back. You mentioned Arion Carter from Smyrna, Tennessee, arguably the top player in that state. From your end of the perspective, there seems to be confidence on Alabama's end. How confident is Tennessee after that official visit? Where do things stand in your mind with him?
Tennessee showed well on the official visit. It worked out very well for the Vols. They were able to bring in several other in-state commits for their official visit, guys that Carter's close with, Caleb Herring, Nathan Robinson, Aiden Bustle, other guys from the middle of the state that he has a relationship with and is comfortable with. And the weekend was kind of about Arion Carter. He got a chance to see more about Tennessee, got a chance to learn more. I think there's some confidence on Tennessee's side, but obviously this is a big-time recruiting battle, and Alabama has plenty of things going in their favor. Arion Carter grew up loving Alabama. He's been pretty open about that. He's going to be back for an official visit there. He's already hosted Coach Saban in home. So, if you're Tennessee, you have to now play the waiting game. You feel like coming out of the visit that things went well, but we'll see. You've got to overcome an Alabama official visit, a Nick Saban home visit. Tennessee will wait and use their home visit later on. But for for Arion Carter, this is going to be a very interesting battle. He will sign early, but he will not announce his commitment until the All-American Bowl in January as well. So a true waiting game for Arion Carter that has provided plenty of intrigue in this recruitment as he has blown up very late and, like you said, arguably one of the best players in the state of Tennessee and the country. He's phenomenal as a sideline-to-sideline linebacker.
He really is. He's had a great senior year. He was committed to Memphis, reopened his recruitment, and has been offered by everybody around the country. Looks like he's got it down to Tennessee and Alabama. Going to be a spirited recruiting battle, and certainly Tennessee has put together one heck of a recruiting class, and Matt Ray does one heck of a job for Volunteer Country, which is part of SI.com, and as we said, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. Well, Matt, we really appreciate your time. If we don't speak to you again before Christmas, we want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. Let everybody know about how to follow you guys over at Volunteer Country, because you're going to be all over the preparation for that December 30th, Orange Bowl, and of recruiting down the stretch to the 21st to the 23rd, plus the transfer portal. You guys cover it all. Just let everybody know how to connect with you.
Yeah, you can find us at si.com/college/Tennessee. At Volunteer Country on all social media. Drew, as always, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate you. Great stuff talking about Tennessee. We're going to go on a break. We're going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I'm D Squared. Stay with us.
The Blitz has been called.
Football season is here, and it's time to score big and get in on the action with MyBookie.ag. MyBookie is an industry-leading website and the best place for you to cash in on all the insane last-minute drives, huge upsets, and heart-pounding finishes. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 100% bonus. They have in-game live betting on nearly every sporting event, plus a user-friendly mobile site so you never miss a single play. Are you sick and tired of getting the runaround when you ask for a payout? Come join MyBookie today. With decades of expertise, no hassle payouts, and no fine print, you'll experience the greatest customer service in the business, guaranteed. Use promo code RADIO to activate your bonus of up to 100%. Call 844-900-2387 or visit mybookie.ag to open an account. That's 844-900-BETS, or go online to mybookie.ag and use promo code RADIO. Win with the best, only at MyBookie. Sign up today.
It's the geometry teacher who mans the ticket window.
It's the kid in grade school who paints her face blue and white before every home game.
It's the accountants and salesmen and store managers who give up their Friday evenings to referee.
It's the graduate who listens to the league championship game on the internet.
It's the parent who sells ads in the school athletic program.
It's the cashier at the corner convenience store who wears school colors on every game day.
It's the trainers, equipment managers, and ball boys who never miss a practice.
What makes high school sports here in Alabama so special? They do.
You do.
We all do.
High school sports. It's the we that every community needs. This message presented by the Alabama High School Athletic Association and the Alabama High School Athletic Directors and Coaches Association.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to her favorite pop star's concert. Do you A, wear earplugs?
Isn't this fun, Dad?
I'll have a soft pretzel.
B, remember the moment with matching concert t-shirts.
That's gonna be $180.
Or we can just take a photo.
C, show her how you used to do concerts.
We're going crowd surfing.
I can't. He's too heavy. Oh my God. Ah.
Or D, just roll with it.
Woo! Justin! Look at us! We're over here!
Justin! OMG! He just looked. I love you, Justin! I love you!
When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers. But that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
How long does it take to get to the forest? That's not far. What are we gonna do? Hike? Sure. Are we there yet?
Yep, it's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org, brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
This hour of the Blitz is brought to you by Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Online at FlemingHSV.com.
Welcome back. Last few minutes of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared, Drew DeArmond, and we appreciate so much Matt Ray, the publisher and editor of Volunteer Country on SI.com, a Sports Illustrated channel. He does a great job, like he said, on all social media, Volunteer Country, and you can find Matt Ray and his great work. We wanted to talk some Tennessee. David Hobbs committing just a few weeks ago, an outstanding player. 5-star for Tennessee, big-time defensive lineman, big get for Rodney Garner, the longtime defensive line coach in the SEC. Had Auburn a couple of times. He played for Pat Dye at Auburn. At Tennessee, this is his second stint there. He's been at Georgia. He's been a recruiting force for many, many years. And he brings in David Hobbs. And we just wanted to talk a little transfer portal and Arion Carter. He's the big target. Alabama wants him very much. To add to their linebacker, crew with Jordan Jefferson, the junior college player. Alabama would like to add Quay Russaw. We'll see what happens there with that young man from Carver, Montgomery, but he's also heavily considering the Auburn Tigers as Quay, along with James Smith, and Florida, the Gators are under consideration, Ohio State, Georgia, but it looks like it's going to be Alabama or Auburn for Quay Russaw and James Smith. Personally, I know they say Alabama's in the lead, but you got to watch Auburn here with Hugh Freeze, and they're going to come see him on an unofficial visit, spend some time with Auburn's coaching staff. Certainly they're going to be on campus in Tuscaloosa this weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see what Nick Saban and his coaching staff can do with Quay Russaw and James Smith and the red carpet treatment they give them. Can they lock these kids up? Can they convince them to come to the University of Alabama? Big NIL collective for Auburn. Alabama's certainly going to take care of their players, but not there. I don't think they would get as big an NIL offer from Alabama as they would Auburn. So that's what's going to make this really fascinating. These two in-state 5-stars, they could really set a tone for Auburn and make their recruiting class, because Auburn's recruiting class is only 11 guys right now. It's not tremendous. Hugh Freeze trying to fill out his staff, trying to finish that recruiting class, but we'll continue to monitor that. Don't forget, later today from 2 to 4, the Bandyman, Bailey Lowry, and Captain Cool, John Abraham on the Afternoon Blitz. We'll come to you tomorrow. We're going to talk some Georgia with Jake Ruse on Wednesday's edition of the Recruiting Blitz. But enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Stay dry. I'm D Squared, Drew DeArmond. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody, and continue to support Blitz Sports Radio.